Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me make sure everything is connected. Everything is connected. Welcome, everybody. Hold up. Now, my friends, hit the like button, please, and thank you. Are you guys okay? Are you guys like we've been going live for like 2 months every day, and I know I'm having like I've been able to sleep in now, and I love it. We live now. Let me let the people know that we live. We have been going listen, we have been going live. I am not Eastern time, so I'm getting up a lot earlier in the morning to go live and review this whole Diddy situation with you guys. So to actually be able to sleep in feels kind of nice. We live now, but hey, it is what it is. We are here, we are back, but we got to get started right away, guys. Do me a favor, hit the like button, please, and thank you. Support the channel, share, do all those beautiful things that you guys do to support little creators like myself, because I still consider myself even though we're at 80,000 plus subscribers, I consider myself a little itty bitty creator in this little sphere of YouTube, if that makes sense. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. You've been waiting for this all day? Well, listen, we got a little bit of an update. I mean, it's going down, and it's been going down since early this morning. And I was going to go live, but I was like, I didn't have the sitter yet. You guys know I like to wait for my sitters to get here. Okay, let's go into, let's see, where are we at? Where are we at? Let's go to Inner City Press, because Inner City Press is already dropping some stuff. Now, hold up. I got all my notifications here, and I'm trying to get ahead, but it's not working. Let me stop. Let me remove this real quick. Got my little bookmarks going on. There's a lot of stuff happening around the world. Guys, send your thoughts and prayers to, Texas and this whole situation that's happening over there. It's so sad to see how many lives have been lost. Young lives have been lost. It doesn't escape me, and we definitely shouldn't get distracted from any of that. So if you're from Texas, shout out to you. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with you guys all out there. Shout out to everybody. Drop some hearts for Texas in the chat, please, and thank you. Okay, guys. So it's been going down since the morning in Inner City Press. People are kind of reporting different things and whatnot. I see, shout out to the creators that are outside of the courtroom, going to the courtroom, like infamous Sylvia, everybody out there going to the courtroom, and just to get the news for everybody. So here we go. So in the morning, they about an hour ago, there was a letter. So in the U.S. versus Sean Combs now joint request that sentencing hearing take place on September 22nd, 2025. The government does not object to this schedule, subject to the consent of the U.S. Probation Office. So what, if anything, will they discuss at 2 p.m. today? That is the question, okay? We want to know. Now, this is the letter to the judge. The parties have met. So prosecution and defense have met. They had a little, I don't know, coffee and bagels. They sat down and they had a meeting. And they have conferred and agreed to the following schedule for the sentencing post-verdict motions, submissions of offense conduct to the probation office. For sentencing, the defense proposes the probation office provide the parties with a pre-sentencing investigation report, the PSI. If you've ever worked in anything, criminal justice, PSI and probation is pretty kind of regular. It's like an assessment of the situation. They submit that to the court, and then they kind of make recommendations based off of that. So they want a PSI, a pre-sentencing investigation report on or before September 5th of 2025. That defense sentencing memorandum and objections to the PSR to be filed on or before September 8th, 2025. That the government sentencing memoranda and objections to the PSR be filed on or before September 15th, 2025, and that the sentencing hearing take place on September 22nd, 2025. The government does not object to the schedule. The government's like, fine, we could do this. We can work with this. Subject to the consent of the United States Probation Office. For post-verdict motions, the parties propose that the defense file any post-verdict motions on or before July 30th of 2025, and that the government respond on or before August 20th of 2025. So they're going to be filing motions back and forth when they submit this report, but really it sounds like they're wanting to push this hearing. Sounds like what, September? on or before September 5th of 2025. Finally, the government requests that it be permitted to submit its summary of the offense conduct on or before July 11, 2025. The defense does not object. We appreciate the court's considerations. But I think we're still going to court, if my understanding. Now, hold up. This was 2 minutes ago. In U.S. versus Sean Combs hearing on expedited sentencing today, a joint letter which was suggesting again September 22nd for a hearing. Inner City Press is covering this live. Shout out to Inner City Press. Here we go. So new letter suggestion, October 3rd. New letter suggests October 3rd for sentencing. Mark Agnifilo speaks. Sean, is that you? Combs says, yes, where are you? Agnifilo, in my office. Deputy says, is the government on? Slavic for the government, yes. Deputy, beyond the letter, anything else? No. Deputy, we'll be back in writing, adjourn. So I think they're on a Zoom call right now, and that's why they're going back and forth on this. They're like, is that you on the phone? Like, what? Are you there? Are you there? That's kind of what they're doing right now. My goodness, guys. By the way, shout out to everybody. It is a very much a standard procedure. Yes, it is. Thank you. Yes, prayers to Texas, of course, guys. But let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. What do you guys think? I mean, it sounds like that's what the judge wanted. I'm pretty sure the judge is going to agree for them to meet, on the 22nd. I don't see why not. I think, if anything, probation is probably going to get right to it and kind of review this and make this a bit of a priority to a certain degree because of who Sean Combs is and maybe, trying to get things through, if that makes sense. Now, hold up. I do have some other things bookmarked. There's a couple things that Inner City Press noted, and he did do a video. So let's look into that while we wait for an update. Let's see.
Here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, it's Tuesday, July 8th.
Volume.
Now, on the U.S. versus Sean Diddy Combs.
Hold up.
Okay, here we are. Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press. Here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, it's Tuesday, July 8th. Now, on the U.S. versus Sean Diddy Combs, after his 2 convictions with 3 not guilties, today at 2 p.m.
All right, guys. Well, guess what? We have an update. Hold up. I just got it on my phone. Lord have mercy. We have another update. Give me 1 second. It sounds like it's over, says Inner City Press. Combs Agnifilo submitted 1 letter, then a second. The deputy said the judge will get back in writing on other cases. So that's that. It's over. It's over. That was less than 7 minutes. I mean, if they both agreed to the date, I kind of figured that the judge would be like, yeah, no problem. Let's just get together and talk about this and kind of call it a day. Let's see. I'm looking for an update. James is like, oh my God, all of this. Can you imagine if you went to the court and it's like, oh, never mind, guys. Let me see. Hold up. I'm going to check and see if we have an update. There is something that we need to talk about because I'm not excusing everybody. All right. I'm just not. I cannot excuse you guys. There was an explosive little back and forth on Pierce Morgan between Busby and DJ Vlad on Sean Diddy Combs. Okay. So I have that queued up because I was like, we got to watch that. We have to watch that. But let me see if we have updates. Hold up. That's what my phone said. Is that it? Is there anything else? There it is. It's over. Agnifilo submits 1 letter, then a second one. The deputy said judge will get back in writing on the other cases. That's it. Are they late? People are like, are they late? I think it's over. It's a wrap. That was it. People were wishing for Sean Diddy Combs to have been released today. No, he's not going to be released today, guys. They're not going to release Diddy without a PSI because they have to put him on if he gets released, if he is granted probation, mind you, because like probation has its own criterias, various agencies has its own criteria to figure out if he would even meet that criteria. They have to do that before they just release it. People are assuming that he was going to walk out. No, he's not, guys. This is a PSI. This is pretty standard. He doesn't just get to walk out. That's it. That's all. What do you think? I think most status hearings are short. That's why they did them over the video call. That's right. You're right, Curly Lucy. Curly Lucy, you are absolutely right. He's not going anywhere, guys. I don't know. People thought that he was going to walk out. I'm like, really? He's not going to get released. Well, if they can get the PSI, no. They have to like get probation involved. Probation has to basically be taken in. And then that's, they have to determine that. The entire court hearing was one single tweet. And that is all, folks. Now, let me know what you're like. Oh my God, I got out of bed for this. What happened? How did this happen, y'all? That's it. Now, I mean, that's good that they all propose, and it sounds like it's not going to be October's hearing. It might be September, depending. The judge is going to get back to everybody in writing and then figure out if that's a court date that's going to work, which probably likely is going to happen on that court date, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think it might be until, well, they decided on September. If the judge orders September, it might happen September. If not, it might happen until October. But they're wanting to do the PSI report beforehand. His sentencing is not until October 2025. Did everyone forget that, or are they just choosing to ignore that fact? That's what was said. I get it. Like I said, and I'm only responding to what people thought that he was going to be. We were all hoping Sean Puffy Combs would be released today. He's not getting released today, guys. This was literally a little status hearing, pre-trial status hearing, and there's nothing. Are people making him sit there till sentencing? I hope so. People are saying, is the court adjourned? Yes, court is adjourned. The whole entire hearing was one tweet, y'all. There's that. Let me know what you guys think. It was virtual, but he didn't even show up. He said he was going to do it in writing for them. I think that's what the judge said. So, hey, that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. I don't even think they pulled Diddy out for anything. Yeah. It's a probation report. So, like, how do I explain this? So, like, the probation officer or office, if they're like, it's a pre-sentencing investigation report, right? So they kind of collect all the information, what he's been convicted about, maybe any history that he's had in the past of like past crimes, which we know, other than on paper he hasn't been, like, I don't think he has a record on paper, but they're going to collect as much information, and so that PSI report is going to be used to kind of determine, to balance out sentencing. The defense can object to it, the prosecution can add things, the court can add things, various things like this, and then probation gets introduced if he qualifies for probation, right? So then that's kind of like the coming together, but the report is supposed to bring all of these factors in, and I'm pretty sure that Agnifilo might read that report and figure out what's relevant to this case and what isn't. So like they might say something to the effect of like, well, he has a history of violence or outbursts. Okay, this is noted on this and this and that. So they're bringing out all that information in, and then from there they make the determinations on what sentencing is going to look like or what things are going to look like for him, if that makes sense. As far as that goes, he's definitely getting jail time. It's people are thinking that he was supposed to be like gone, like released today. He's not getting released today, guys. This is literally a status hearing. He's not. You didn't miss much. Court said they agreed on a date. They wrote a letter. For those that are late, let me tell you, because I know I got some people that are late here. The parties, the government and the defense met, and they decided on basically the process of pre-sentencing and probation and all this other stuff. So the parties have met and confirmed and agreed to the following schedule for sentencing, post-verdict motions, and submission of the offense conduct to the probation officer. So probation office, excuse me. So they got together, the defense and the prosecution, to decide on dates, okay? And then they gave that information to the judge. The judge basically said, I'll write you guys, I'll look into this and then I'll write you guys my opinions. That's kind of what he said. So there is that was it, guys. That was the whole hearing. It was literally like that. For sentencing, the parties proposed the court original date of October 3rd, 2025. Okay. The defense proposes that the probation office provide the parties with a pre-sentence investigation report, a PSR, on or before August 29th of 2025. That the defense objects to the PSR because they can say, I don't agree with this pre-sentence investigation report, this what you said here, or how you assess, whatever it may be, I don't agree. But they're putting in dates for any objections that could happen from the defense, which they have until September 5th, 2025 to object. That the government objections to the PSR be filled on or before September 12th, 2025. That the probation office disclose that their final PSR on September 18th, 2025. So they're going to go back and forth, possibly through emails on this PSR, possibly maybe hearings that they might need to have. They're going to have memorandums and stuff like that in between. Okay. And they want everything to be filed on or before September 19th of 2025, and that the government sentencing memorandum be filed on September 26, 2025. The government and the probation officer do not object to the schedule. For the post-verdict motions, the parties propose that defense file any post-verdict motions on or before July 30th of 2025, and the government respond on or before August 20th of 2025. Finally, the government requests that it be permitted to submit its summary of offense conduct on or before July 11, 2025, and the defense does not object. We appreciate the court's consideration. That's basically it. But people really thought that he was going to be released today. No, he's not, guys. This is like technical stuff that happens. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. I mean, that was all from the hearing. You said I would rather be his PO. And honestly, yes. And the fact that the judge can take into consideration the charges he was not found guilty on. Keep that in mind. The sentencing is at the judge's discretion and the federal sentencing guidelines. This is accurate, coming from somebody that knows, but this is accurate. This is what we were trying to explain last time we were live, when people were talking about, it should go this way. I'm like, it's really up to the judge's discretion how he kind of lays the law down at this point. Even if Diddy wants to talk to the judge, it's still up to his discretion. His sentencing is on until October 2025. Yes. Sorry, I don't want to repeat myself, but I wanted to make sure that that I put Vicky's comment out there. Sorry, I'm late. No worries. You guys are fine. So, okay. So that's basically it. There's nothing more to it. But I want to talk a little bit about a video that was just dropped this morning on Piers Morgan. Now, I have a love-hate thing for Piers Morgan. Sometimes I really like how he does certain things, and sometimes I don't. But I will say that, like, certain aspects of various, like, he's willing to challenge certain things, and I'm here for it, at least to hear that other side. He had DJ Vlad and DJ Vlad and Tony Busby on this. And if there's two people that I don't like, Busby and DJ Vlad. Have y'all ever been in a situation when two people you don't like those two people? And they're going at each other, and you don't like those two people, but you're here to watch them go at each other. That's how I felt in that moment. I know that's pretty messy, but I'm just being very honest. How I felt that moment. Like that's just how it is. I felt that. So they had a little drop this morning. I said, I'm so here for it. I'm going to get to it, but Piers had a woman up here who I believe did write a book. I think it was like Confessions of a Video Vixen. If you guys remember that. Now, I was always under the impression that it was written by Corinne Steffins, but it wasn't. I guess it was written by this woman who essentially says that she had an encounter with Diddy as well. She talked about it, but I don't really want to play her stuff too much. I would suggest you guys go watch it because it's very interesting. It's weird how she's answering some of the questions with Piers. It's almost like she says she did or she did. She's not sure if an encounter happened or not. But she said that when she wrote her book, Diddy's attorneys came at her and kind of like were wanting to see, like, we're ready to sue her basically over the book, even though they hadn't read it. So she kind of talks a little bit about that and gets into the deal about that situation. I suggest you guys watch it. But where I want to go is over here, my friend.
When I went to get my police report from the police station, it was destroyed all within 48 hours to protect the person who had brutalized me. It is systemic. So it doesn't matter.
Ooh.
if Diddy gets off or not, in the sense that it won't stop anything. I think if anything, it makes it all worse.
Well, that is a sobering way to end. But thank you very much indeed, Elizabeth Overton. I appreciate it.
Did she change her name? Because that is her, right? I was like, did she change it? That's not her, is it? She changed her name? That's Corinne known as Elizabeth. But so that is her? Because I was like, I thought the video vixen, because I was like, it's not, but this is her name is Elizabeth here. Oh, okay, thank you, Vicky. So that is Corinne known as Elizabeth. Right. She said, she did the whole she was known as Superhead in the industry. I think Lil Wayne gave her that name. Thank you. She looks so different. Yeah, I mean, it's her, but it just isn't. I thought it was like she got an alias. So watch her. Like, I didn't even realize. I thought Superhead, or excuse me, I hate because she changed her name. That's not her, right? So rightfully, but Corinne Steffins wrote the book, and I was like, wait a minute. Didn't Corinne Steffins write that book, The Confessions of a Video Vixen? Because I remember when it was being promoted, and I think it was like in 2005 when she wrote it. So he brought her in. Okay. So I was like, it can't be another writer unless there's another book out there that has the same thing. I don't know. No, I agree. I'm here for calling her Elizabeth. I just wasn't sure if it was her, if it wasn't her. But thank you. No, I agree. I'm not disputing that at all. I thought a lot of video vixens use stage names. Yeah, I do. But anyways, so I suggest you guys watch it because it's a very interesting interview that she does. But where I want to get to is DJ Vlad and Tony Busby. Let me know what you guys think.
Thank you so much.
Comments.
Well, to debate all this, I'm joined by Tony Busby, the attorney representing Diddy victims in civil suits, DJ Vlad, commentator and host of Vlad TV, and our very own uncensored contributor, Esther Krakau. Esther, as we listened to that, what were you thinking?
I mean, what she said at the end there was very poignant. This is not a Diddy problem. This is an industry problem. I do find it quite telling that she said she was brutalized as well in the similar fashion that Cassie was. And then within 48 hours, the tape vanished. And I think a lot of the fault has to be laid at the nature of the system. We used to say that all you need is consent, whether it's you sign consent or yes, we're good to go. But actually, when you contextualize it, these women that, okay, yes, they are drawn in by the glamour of being with someone like P. Diddy or a high-profile person. You can choose the names. They are drawn into the system, but nothing means that they deserve to be beaten up and treated like ragdolls in the way that Cassie and arguably this lady said. And so we need to be looking at the cultural issue as well. That's the fundamental issue. It's not just about you sign a piece of paper and you can make an NDA, keep you quiet or whatever. The culture is telling women that actually you can be treated this way because you happen to be in this space, and all that keeps everything above board is the legality. And unfortunately, the culture is our problem. It's not the problem of the federal prosecutors. It's the problem of us as a society. The PAs, the people that are handling the press releases, the lawyers, everyone. They are part of the culture, that culture of subservience, and allowing these people to do things that are legally above board but are horrible and just quite vile. I feel sorry for Cassie because I do think the prosecutors misled her. The case was very, very shoddy on many levels. You can't have a conspiracy with just one person. That's not a conspiracy. That's a thought. And so I think in many ways that case was always going to fall through. But I do think that these girls have been let down by a culture that has boiled down appropriate behavior to just legality and consent.
Okay, DJ Vlad.
I think she's referencing to like the hip hop as a culture, if that's what she's referencing.
You posted on X after the verdicts came in, Cassie is guilty of the same prostitution charges Diddy was just convicted of. I interviewed 3 of the male escorts. All 3 of them said the same thing. Cassie picked them, contacted them for free calls, enjoyed the experiences and paid them. Meanwhile, she's sitting on $30 million and writing letters to the judge asking him not to give Diddy bail. So pretty clear what your view is of.
You said you really need to listen to Matthew from Inner City Press on his video this morning about juror number 6. What did he say about juror number 6? I have Matthew's video up, but we stopped watching because the switch. What did he say about juror number 6? TH. Should we switch over there before we get into Vlad? Like, I want to know. What should we? Is it something that we need to switch over? Put a 1 in the chat if we should just switch over very quickly and then come back to this little interaction here, because I'm here for this interaction too. But if there's something more pertinent, I haven't heard it because I was going to listen with you guys. Okay, let's do it real quick, all right?
Yeah. There is a hearing on expediting his sentencing. His bail was denied, but the judge seems committed to move his sentencing up from October 3rd. And I'm assuming that Mark Agnifilo and his other lawyers will be asking for time served when the time comes. Now, meanwhile, so we'll be doing that at 2. instead of it being by phone, which it could have been, since it's virtual for the lawyers, it'll be in the courthouse. But so will we be. There it is right there, the courthouse. But there's been a development. Early in the trial, in the first week, in fact, before the trial's testimony and even opening statements began, during jury selection, we noticed that one of the prospective jurors said he worked at the UN Office of Counterterrorism.
Right.
And then he was asked, does that mean you work in any way with US law enforcement? And he said, no. Now,
What?
I used to cover the United Nations. In fact, I still do. I write scoops daily about it, but I report on it pretty aggressively. Anyway, I know that office, and they do work with US law enforcement. So it just sort of stuck in my craw that why would this juror be misrepresenting? And on a second day, they asked him more about it because it wasn't credible. He said, no, we work only with Interpol and something about the Dushanbe process. Okay, didn't think more about him because he's just an alternate. And he knew he was an alternate. Only one alternate actually made the transition to being on the jury. That was alternate 1, who took the place of juror number 6, who was ousted for misrepresenting, according to the judge, where he lived and the credibility issues raised thereby. Now, alternate 6 went on CNN right after the verdict. And he said, first he said he inflated his importance by saying, no one told us who were the jurors or who were the alternates. That's totally false. He was there. I was there. Anyone that covered the trial heard them say, you are alternate 6.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He's talking about Mr. Bean. Wait a minute. You guys remember when we reviewed that CNN interview, right? CNN interview said that he sat there. He's like, well, we didn't even, because even I'll never forget, Ronan was in the chat and Ronan was like, that's weird. You typically know if you're in the 12 or if you're an alternate. Whoa. Okay. All right.
Fine. Then he said that the videos that no one saw except the jurors and alternates at the time, he said, they were riveting, but also kind of tame. Now, the question was put to him, he said, the prosecution showed videos of Cassie just sitting around. The interviewer then said, you mean the defense? He said, oh, yeah, the defense. So then he went out of his way to mention 350 pages of notes, which, to me, call me a cynic. I believe alternate 6 misrepresented to get on the jury, as we reported at the time. And as soon as it was over, somehow was contacted CNN to mention his copious notes, possibly to sell a book. I mean, who am I to say? Who am I to say except to say it's extraordinary to me that this UN. Anyway, we'll have more on this. We've written a story. You can find it. And I think by going on CNN, all bets are out the window. Honestly, it's and the whole secrecy of the trial had a lot of problems. But this is a new low. This is a new low, frankly. Now, what else? Today at 10:30, very soon, we're going to be live tweeting the final pretrial conference in U.S. versus Roman Storm et al.
I think when you say, well, if he was an alternate, it doesn't matter. I think one of the things that they were trying to wean off is like trying to figure out like who's actually trying to get into the jury just to be in the jury and not actually there to serve, right? So if he's been caught up with a lie, because he said he's an alternate juror, but he never said what number he was. Yeah, they're not allowed to speak during. If you're a jury member, you're not allowed to talk to your own peers about the case. You're not allowed to talk about the case at all. Not outside of the courtroom, not while in the courtroom, not while you're at lunch. You're not supposed to talk at all. You're not. Like you not even for a little bit, you're not supposed to. And if you find somebody talking about it, you're supposed to report it immediately because that's what like you're only allowed to talk about of the case at deliberations. Basically at the dead setting of the case, you have to go and talk about it. But before that, you're not supposed to. That's the question that we have all had. They should have been sequestered. Honestly, they should have been sequestered. So if I'm understanding, I'm trying to understand where he's coming from with this. Hold up. I'm trying to understand what he's saying.
Now, alternate 6 went on CNN right after the verdict.
Alternate 6 went on CNN. So when the alternate juror went on CNN, he never told us what his number was. He was alternate 6.
And he said, first he said he inflated his importance by saying, no one told us who were the jurors or who were the alternates. That's totally false. He was there.
Did you hear that? Because he did say that at the very beginning of that CNN interview.
I was there. Anyone that covered the trial heard them say, you are alternate 6. Fine. Then he said that the videos that no one saw except the jurors and alternates at the time, he said, they were riveting, but also kind of tame. Now, the question was put to him, he said, the prosecution showed videos of Cassie just sitting around. The interviewer then said, you mean the defense? He said, oh, yeah, the defense. So then he went out of his way to mention 350 pages of notes, which, to me, call me a cynic. I believe alternate 6 misrepresented to get on the jury, as we reported at the time. And as soon as it was over, somehow was contacted CNN to mention his copious notes, possibly to sell a book. I mean, who am I to say?
I agree. I'm sorry. I'm kind of there. Now, hold up. He said something before this. Hold up about this situation. Hold up.
I report on it pretty aggressively. Anyway, yep. I know that office, and they do work with U.S. law enforcement. So it just sort of stuck in my craw that why would this juror be misrepresenting? And on a second day, they asked him more.
Yeah, juror number 6 is not alternate 6. Not to be confused. Thank you for asking this. Not to be confused. They just happen to have, how like, that's my understanding, because that would make no sense. They dismissed number 6 for lying about, or at least misinforming the court about the jurisdiction that he lives in, right? That's different than alternate 6 who went on CNN. Alternate 6 went on CNN. Okay. Juror number 6 was the one that got let go, if that makes sense.
About it because it wasn't credible. He said, no, we work only with Interpol and something about the Dushanbe process. Okay. Didn't think more about him because he's just an alternate.
Okay.
And he knew he was an alternate.
So juror number 6, is that the UN guy? Am I hearing this correctly? Hold up. I'm confused by this.
When opening statements began, during jury selection, we noticed that one of the prospective jurors said he worked at the UN Office of Counterterrorism.
I remember that. I heard that. I mean, we were live during that time, and we were talking about, why do they have somebody from the UN? Why would somebody from the UN serve as a juror member?
And then he was asked, does that mean you work in any way with U.S. law enforcement? And he said, no. Now, I used to cover the United Nations. In fact, I still do. I write scoops daily about it. But I report on it pretty aggressively. Anyway, I know that office, and they do work with U.S. law enforcement.
So he lied? He lied? His name is George. He gave an interview to CNN. He said he wants to be called George. Damn. Y'all see what I'm talking about? Drop a 1 in the chat if you're picking up what Inner City Press is dropping here. Let me know, because this is what he's saying. He's saying, so alternate number 6. Alternate number 6, his name is George, Mr. Bean, who went into CNN and then TMZ. He was the UN guy. Damn, guys. That's not bueno. And did anybody tell the judge or what? He lied about law enforcement involvement. See through you. Let me go back a little bit, because I'm trying to. So Inner City Press is saying that his office works with law enforcement. Okay, hold up. Okay, I'm going back now.
opening statements began. During jury selection, we noticed that one of the prospective jurors said he worked at the UN Office of Counterterrorism. And then he was asked, does that mean you work in any way with US law enforcement? And he said, no. Now, I used to cover the United Nations. In fact, I still do. I write scoops daily about it, but I report on it pretty aggressively. Anyway, I know that office, and they do work with US law enforcement. So it just sort of stuck in my craw that why would this juror be misrepresenting? And on the second day, they asked him more about it because it wasn't credible. He said, no, we work only with Interpol and something about the Dushanbe process.
Is he talking about, you said he's talking about two different alternates. He's not talking about the same one? Because it almost sounds like he's talking about the same guy, but okay, I'm going to play it, all right? I'm going to play it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments because I could be wrong.
Okay, didn't think more about him because he's just an alternate. And he knew he was an alternate. Only one alternate actually made the transition to being on the jury. That was alternate one, who took the place of juror number 6, who was ousted for misrepresenting, according to the judge, where he lived and the credibility issues raised thereby. Now, alternate 6 went on CNN right after the verdict, and he said, first he said he inflated his importance by saying, no one told us who were the jurors or who were the alternates. That's totally false. He was there. I was there. Anyone that covered the trial heard them say, you are alternate 6. Fine. Then he said that the videos that no one saw except the jurors and alternates at the time, he said, they were riveting, but also kind of tame. Now, the question was put to him, he said, the prosecution showed videos of Cassie just sitting around. The interviewer then said, you mean the defense? He said, oh, yeah, the defense.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point. Did he have any influence over the jury? Because clearly he wasn't in the room. It's a good point.
So then he went out of his way to mention 350 pages of notes, which, to me, call me a cynic, I believe alternate 6 misrepresented to get on the jury, as we reported at the time. And as soon as it was over, somehow was contacted contacted CNN to mention his copious notes, possibly to sell a book. I mean, who am I to say? Who am I to say except to say it's extraordinary to me that this UN... Anyway, we'll have more on this. We've written a story. You can find it. And I think by going on CNN, all bets are out the window, honestly. It's and the whole secrecy of the trial had a lot of problems, but this is a new low. This is a new low, frankly. Now, what else? Today at 10:30, very soon, we're going to be live tweeting the final pretrial conference in U.S. versus Roman Storm.
Shout out to Interstate Press. I'm going to try to scoot up a little bit.
$20 million from Immigrant Savings Bank. So those are 2 trials coming down the pike. What else we got? Megan the Stallion. The case goes forward. The cameraman.
Okay, Meg the Stallion, guys. This is someone gave me the heads up about this. We got to talk about that case at some point. I'm waiting to get more files on that. Meg the Stallion and the cameraman who was exposed to things.
Ibiza, or wherever he was, that witnessed, according to him, some very troubling material. His case is half dismissed, but goes forward. And we'll be covering that, as well as, of course, Drake, Graham versus UMG. We cover the United Nations, too. And we have a scoop about UNISFA. We have a scoop about Libya. Yep. But now we're going to be asking about the UN Office of Counterterrorism and their staffer, George, whose name is widely known. It's on their website in connection with Dushanbe with a 201 area code. I think it must be his personal number. It's not a UN number. It's on the UN website. And that 201 number, here comes the feds. The 201 number tracks to a real estate dealer in Manhattan. Okay, we're going in.
All right. Check out Inner City Press. Well, that's interesting. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm sure that the judge has probably been informed at this point, if not by somebody, maybe by the defense, because they could file their motions and say, this is what's happening. This is what we found out. Heads up. Because this is really the defense's thing, right? They're going to figure out what to make of this. You're not familiar with Megan's suit. She's got a couple. You got to be careful when you talk about Meg the Stallion because she does go after bloggers. I mean, she's going after one right now. Yeah, you just got to be careful. Like, if you talk about Rock Nation, you got to, any Rock Nation people, you got to be careful when you talk about them because it is a whole different beast when it comes to this. It really is. Okay. TH, thank you so much for the heads up. I guess we'll see what happens. If you know what I mean. Um, that's how I see it. You said ICP is wrong on that. He said that the prosecutor showed the X account, but the defense showed the part where they were sitting around, not verbatim. Gotcha. Yeah, Milagro. He's suing Milagro. Well, Meg's people is, but and some people go back and forth on that one. I personally feel like I don't want to silence anybody. I don't. But I also feel like you got to be careful when you're sharing links or anything like that. Like that Tory Lane's case is a whole different animal. I have a lot of questions about the verdict that came out of that and what they used to convict this man, but that's just my thought on that. My opinion. Okay, let's get into this because, like I said, I'm so here for this little back and forth. Watch.
Cassie Ventura there. What do you think should happen to her?
I mean, personally, I think she should be charged with the same thing that Diddy was charged with. Ultimately, he was convicted of prostitution.
This is Vlad. So he was asked, what do you think should happen to Cassie Ventura? And Vlad's like, she should be charged as well.
She was involved in the prostitution. Every male escort that I talked to said that she was the one picking the actual male prostitutes. She would book them. She enjoyed every experience. She was sort of guiding the whole thing while they were together, and she was the one that actually paid them. Ultimately, this is a domestic violence case that's ballooned into a RICO and sex trafficking and so forth. What Diddy did to Cassie in that hallway was absolutely horrible, but that is not what the trial was about. It was about RICO. It was about...
Okay, this is a good point. Rosa Vargas, thank you so much for the, not Vargas, Rosa Vargas. Thank you for being a member for 5 months. You said the alternate UN guy, then Juror 6, Alt 6 is Mr. B. Gotcha. Thank you, Rosa. Well, maybe it's just confusion. But thank you, Rosa. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Shout out to you. What do you guys think about what Vlad is saying?
Sex trafficking, neither of which made sense in this particular trial. And if you want to actually convict him for prostitution, Cassie is just as liable for that same prostitution that Diddy got convicted of, but she was given immunity in the whole situation. So I just feel it's really just a messed up situation.
That's a completely ridiculous stance because you know what the consequences of her, not booking those prostitutes? We saw it in that hallway in the hotel, in an international chain hotel that were happy to take $50,000 to wipe it off the face of the earth. Those are the consequences. If she hadn't done that.
And that's the bigger problem is these hotel chains, right? They're taking them. Of course, they're charging for the damages. And we saw all those charges and we heard all those numbers, but they were happy to take, they were happy to take whatever money came their way to fix those charges. But they're not held liable or accountable, right?
It is very likely that she would have been manhandled in that way, even in the street, and someone would have been able to wipe the footage of that. I appreciate the fact that she hold on.
Case, which has nothing to do with
I appreciate the fact that she
was not charged with domestic violence. You're talking about a totally different situation.
I guess the question, Vlad, I guess the question that Esther's posing there really is, did she go along so apparently consensually with all the freak-off stuff, with all these escorts? Because she
admitted to that.
Well, hang on. My question is, did she go along with it in the apparently consensual way because she was in fear of retribution from Diddy in a way we saw with the beating?
No, I don't think so. At the end of the day, this was an artist that had one hit song 20-something years ago. She had the ability to leave at any point. She was signed to a label, but labels leave artists that don't react constantly. She could have went. She stayed because she wanted to be in that particular situation. Now, people are going to argue with me and so forth, but at the end of the day, she stayed because there was no one else that was offering her a record deal. There's no one else that was spending millions of dollars on her. There's no one else that was showering her with gifts. So she decided to stay. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when the money ran out, when she married a broke fitness trainer and had to go move back in with her parents and the money completely ran out, then it's like, okay, let's sue Diddy and let's get $20 million out of him. That is my take on it. That's all.
But okay. Oh, shit. That's his opinion. All right. I'm not a fan of Vlad for various reasons, but okay. I'll wait my comment until later.
Always been my take. That always will be my take.
Okay, Tony Busby, let me bring you in here. Just first off, what do we think is going to happen to Diddy?
Yes, bring in Tony Busby.
What sentence are you anticipating?
I'm expecting 2 to 4 years. I would expect. I mean, he's not going to get 20 years. Obviously, he's already has time served. There's going to be some mitigating factors. He doesn't have a a prior record. However, there are some issues within the case that might be reasons for the judge to go a little bit higher than perhaps normal. But I would expect 2 to 4 years.
What is your feeling? You've obviously represented many Diddy victims in civil actions. You had over 100 people come to you with various allegations. What impact does this verdict have on?
You see, notice Vlad is laughing. Vlad is laughing. Did you guys pick that up? Vlad is laughing. Now I got to put my copyright sign up here. You notice that? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody notices that.
The suits that you want to proceed with?
Zero. I mean, I was listening to Vlad there for a minute, and I'm sure that same kind of argument took place in the jury room. I mean, people have a hard time putting their head around a situation where somebody might consent one day and not consent the next. And there are people in this world that believe, well, you've consented once, so therefore you're consenting for life. That is not what the law says. And I can understand why there may have been people on that jury that have the same point of view. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that there's a lot of psychological issues here that people really don't understand about trauma bonding and how somebody might feel compelled to do something that they really don't want to do. But even if they said no one time, that is not consent. And I think in this trial, we didn't have the benefit, or at least I didn't have the benefit of watching it day to day and seeing each witness and hearing how they said the things they said. All I was able to see was the transcript that I would receive on a daily basis. Obviously, the jury thought that the RICO situation was complete baloney. They thought apparently that this was not a RICO situation. There was no conspiracy, and they were trying to put a round peg into a square hole or vice versa. Okay. I did think that given the testimony that I saw, that there were instances where Cassie and Jane were forced to do things either through financial pressure or through extortion type pressure or through force, things that they did not want to do.
But the interesting thing on that, Tony, is that the jury clearly did not believe either woman when it came to any issue about consensuality. They just didn't believe any of it.
Nope.
I think pretty much across the board, it was clear they had not bought in to the suggestion that any of this was non-consensual.
No question. I mean, I think you're right. And sometimes juries do things that we don't expect. I go back to whether, each instance that this happened, did he have consent each time? Then I see Vlad's point. There were times when it looked like that Cassie was involved in setting some of these. Well,
there's no question of that. I interviewed the Punisher, the guy who gave evidence. He gave very powerful, eloquent evidence.
See through you said it's not Vlad's fault that these idiots get on his platform and self-snitch. Listen, they need money. Because it's true. I mean, as much as I don't like Vlad, it's not his fault that a lot of these people would be like, yeah, go ahead. And he knows too. Vlad knows the reputation that follows him. I mean, he's talked about it openly. People say that I'm the feds. People say that. I'm like, well, I do find it to be very suspicious. And I've said it before. Yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
I've interviewed him several times. He's a very good talker, and he had no real kind of skin in the game. In fact, he was brought from the prosecution to give evidence, but actually ended up being a pretty powerful witness for the defense, it turned out, because what he said was everything was done through Cassie Ventura and seemed very consensual. Went on for over 2 years, a dozen or so encounters in hotels where Diddy just sat in the corner saying nothing. She booked him, she paid him, she organized it. Everything was driven by her. She seemed to have a good time. Everyone was happy. I thought that was very powerful evidence, actually, for Diddy, because it seemed to contradict everything that they were trying to position it as, which was this was all coercion.
Let me offer this up. The government settled in on using 2 alleged victims. They used Cassie and they used Jane. Early on, when this all started, we were contacted by the U.S. attorney, and they asked us, can we speak to some of your clients?
Listen to what he just said here. He said that they settled on 2 victims, Cassie and Jane Doe. He said he was contacted by the feds about talking to some of his clients.
So we went to, and they told us, these are the ones we want to speak to. We made those people available. They talked to a couple of those people. But I think by that point, their team had decided that they had what they needed. They had the goods, if you will, to proceed with Jane and with Cassie. I think that was a mistake. I will say, as I watched the trial, at least learned about the trial daily as it went on, I thought the government was doing what they needed to do to get a conviction. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Obviously, they did not believe that they believed that Diddy had consent, and they didn't believe there was a conspiracy. And obviously, the transportation to commit prostitution, that was pretty cut and dried. And I think everybody, no matter which side you fall out on, believed that there would be a conviction there.
But there is a point, isn't there, that which Vlad made, I thought, pretty compellingly, that if you're going to convict Diddy and you don't believe that it was non-consensual and Cassie did all the booking, why is she not being charged? And could it be that the reason that she turned on Diddy was to preempt potentially some legal exposure herself?
Who knows? We'll never know that. They gave her immunity early on, and that's the horse they rode with, and we see what happened.
Well, I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think consent without fear of consequences is not, with fear of consequences, is not actually consent. So if you were going against Cassie, for example, you're going to try her, all she has to do is show you that video and just say, look at what happens if I didn't do that. Now, I don't think it reached the threshold for the jury for RICO, which I completely understand. Like I said, a conspiracy that involves one is a thought. But this is why I say this is not a problem for the courts. It's a problem for culture and society. Cassie met P. Diddy when she was 17 years old. She signed a 10-album deal with P. Diddy by the age of like 20 or 21, which is virtually unheard of in this industry. I mean, I'm sorry, she wasn't Beethoven. She didn't have the kind of talent that would warrant that kind of record deal. She was clearly groomed. Now, amongst all of that, could you say she could have got up and left? Okay, arguably, yes.
She was with him 10 years.
Yes, but the thing is, he
was with him 10 years, and the Punisher was very clear.
Yes,
she did not give any impression to him of being anything but a very enthusiastic and willing participant. It's quite kinky stuff.
Look at what happened when she tried to break up with him and date, what's his name, the rapper, who had his car blown up. I mean, it's not that cut and dry. This, I feel like...
Do we have lots of chats through the Me Too era and stuff? And obviously...
There was some double standard here, and this did get to me, right? That Diddy could be with whoever, he could have whatever girlfriends, whatever it was, but she had to maintain only for him. And so then when she started talking to Kid Cudi, whatever it was at that time, it just felt like there was an imbalance of a lot of things there.
One of the things people are saying about this is that, in a way, it signals the beginning of the end of that Me Too movement, because for a long time, everyone was encouraged to believe women accusers. The moment they made allegations, they had to be believed. That was always, to me, a very dangerous proposition. It should always be they should be taken seriously. The allegations should be investigated properly, and then decisions should be made about whether there had been a crime. Very dangerous to believe accusers before you actually know whether they're telling the truth. But here we've got a situation, I think, where if he'd been in this case 3-4 years ago, he would have gone down.
I don't think.
I think the jury, I suspect, has moved with the times.
I think the whole Me Too issue was a separate kind of beast. P. Diddy and the environment that he exists, this hip hop industry, is a completely different kind of sleaze. And also, it was very cut and dry from the video.
Though? Is it any different to Harvey Weinstein, who claimed that a lot of what his stuff was transactional? I mean, he was convicted of rape and sexual abuse and so on. So obviously, again, juries didn't agree. But he painted a picture of a lot of kind of transactional relationships with people, right, where he believed this was all part of the sort of casting couch deal. That again has been, that's dinosaur stuff and was outrageous and wrong and everything else, and it turned out to be criminal as well. But
transactional relationships, consent is still an issue in my opinion, but transactional relationships, was there an awareness of a transactional relationship both for Cassie and Jane? And did they know what the transaction was? You schedule the FOs and I pay your rent. You schedule the FOs and I got your 10-album deal. Like, that's the part that I feel like we're missing something here, but that's just my opinion.
I don't think there's much difference in the attitude.
There is a difference. I think hip hop has always come under fire for being quite sleazy. I mean, you can't listen to a hip hop track from 20 years ago without hearing the N-word or bitch. It's always been quite sleazy. They've always been quite actually vocal about the fact that they treat women like pieces of meat. And the women, a lot of the time, are happy to be treated that way because they get a lot from it.
So that's interesting, isn't it, Vlad? Because that is part of that hip hop culture. There's no doubt. A lot of women have embraced that kind of very misogynist language, the lyrics and so on and so on. Is your feeling about what happened here with Cassie Ventura and Diddy that she was, notwithstanding the violence which would erupt more than once, we know there were other occasions when he was violent to her, that she enjoyed her life around this superstar rapper, notwithstanding that?
I don't understand the question. Can you
that she accepted the violence and was prepared to stay in the relationship because she enjoyed everything else?
I think there was a very violent relationship. I think it was a drug-fueled relationship. I think there was lots of money and fame and jet-setting involved. At the end of the day, I think what happened to her was horrible. I think that tape showed just how bad the domestic violence was. But at the end of the day, this is not what the trial was about. The trial was about RICO. The trial was about sex trafficking. The trial was about prostitution. In fact, the only reason Diddy got convicted was because it was interstate commerce. All the other male escorts that I've talked to, like, for example, I talked to Don the dealer, who also had multiple sessions with Cassie. She said she was loving it. She was into it. She was setting the direction. At the end of the day, you could stay in a bad relationship, but you decide to stay in that bad relationship. This is really about the domestic violence, but the domestic violence goes back past the statute of limitations. So if you think about it, in this whole case, all the escorts I talked to were not, sent to a different state or a different country. They were all local. Like Don the Dealer was in Miami. Punisher was in New York. If all these guys didn't travel across state lines, there would be no case at all. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And with Tony Busby, at the end of the day, like he said, that the feds talked to multiple people that he's representing that were suing, but they decided not to use any of them, which makes me think that there wasn't any real credible, real evidence that they actually did anything wrong in the whole situation. Therefore, there's only 2 people that were actually used. The only person.
Well, okay. Hold up. Why didn't the prosecution bring more witnesses? If they had been in contact with Busby, why didn't the prosecution say, hey, we got these 2, but let's go ahead and bring up these other 2 since Gina is out of Whole Foods. Like, she don't want to have nothing to do with this. I mean, that's a good point.
That was actually, that filed a lawsuit that was used in this case was Cassie. And there's over 100 lawsuits. So what does that say? That says the lawsuits are all nonsense.
You know, I listened to you. And some of
which of your clients was used in this case?
Let's be clear about something.
Which of your clients was used in this case?
Hey, listen very carefully. If the alleged assault happened in LA, there was nobody flown in, there was nobody coerced and trafficked across state lines, they wouldn't use the client, obviously. These cases that we have filed in New York are filed under a New York statute for sexual assault and sexual abuse. That's completely different than transportation for prostitution or for sexual trafficking. And
which, by the way, are you licensed in New York, in that area?
Certainly has nothing to do with RICO. So you just made this grand conclusion that, the U.S. attorney talked to a few of these folks and decided they had no credibility. You are flat out wrong in that respect. Because
none of them were used. None of them were used. How am I wrong if none of them were used?
Is that there was nothing that happened across state lines and there was no sexual trafficking, which is what the case was all about. So it has nothing to do with whether these people were credible or not. Their case is a civil case alleging state law claims of assault after being drugged. That was not the case that was brought by the U.S. attorney. And frankly, that's not a case that could be brought by the U.S. attorney. And which is the point
your own client accused Jay-Z and Diddy of raping her when she was 13, and we all saw it was all nonsense. It was absolutely false. It was absolutely false. She said Good Charlotte was there. They weren't there.
You're like the mailman. You're like the mailman.
It was all nonsense. Jay-Z sued you over that. Come on. Like you have a long history.
Give you a little bit of information.
Oh my God. I love it because I don't like these 2 guys. I don't like Vlad and I don't like Busby, but I love when I see 2 people that I don't like kind of argue because I'm like, oh, where do you go? What? You said what?
And you make all these
long history.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
You won a single lawsuit with any of these people you've represented. A single lawsuit.
Literally 30 days ago for $640 million, pal. So don't be telling me about winning lawsuits. I've more lawsuits than any lawyer in the United States. So I don't hear you.
How many lawsuits have you won against Diddy and Jay-Z? How many lawsuits have you won against Diddy and Jay-Z?
None that went to trial yet, knucklehead. Think about it. They don't just file a case go to trial. Wait and see.
You won nothing.
Okay, let me.
Oh my God. Okay.
Let me just jump. All right, look. The reality is, we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out, Vlad. We're going to find out, Vlad, whether any of these civil cases do end up.
Then will be one. Maybe 1 or 2 be settled because of their headaches.
Okay, there were 100 people.
The one thing I do find very distasteful is there are reports that Diddy got a standing ovation in prison when he returned from this verdict because his lawyer said that they love the idea of him beating the feds. And when you watch that video, the video of him beating up Cassie Ventura, the idea that guy becomes any kind of hero, I think would stick in all our gullet. Can we agree on that?
He's not exactly an esteemed company. He's in a prison.
But he's not. He shouldn't be treated as a hero.
Of course not.
He literally called him a knucklehead. Like he said, "You knucklehead." That's like somebody you called a child, like a knucklehead. All right, you knucklehead. What do you know about this?
And I mean, in some of the comments you've been reading online, I do think the prosecution failed Cassie in a way, because now we're having a debate about, her motivations. Was she actually just, in on all of this and just trying to
but you know what, Esther, when I interviewed the Punisher, I really did change my view about this whole case.
But she was 9 months pregnant, testifying about the most grotesque things.
I know. But she also had taken a massive payout before.
Which she deserved. She deserved it.
Okay, but according to the Punisher, over 2 years, it was all driven by her, all consensual, and she was completely happy. And when he said that under oath, and then repeated it all to me, and I got to be honest with you, I slightly changed my view about the whole case based on his testimony. I thought that if that was indicative of what was really going on, then how much of a victim was she? She was a victim of domestic violence, but as Vlad said, that was not what Diddy was on trial for. Anyway, look, it's a fascinating case. I've got to leave it there. Thank you all very much. I shall await the the civil actions with great interest, Tony Busby, and I'm probably not as great as interest as DJ Vlad is going to await them, but we shall see. Thank you all very much.
Wow.
Here's Morgan Uncensored.
Anyways, I will say, when I saw that, wait, they got Busby and Vlad on the same panel. I'm so here for it. Stay on his helmet, Busby. I don't like any of them. You said, again, Busby claims to have victims that were minors. Why didn't thank you for saying this. This is a good point. I believe, and I quote, what did he say in that press conference? They had 25 so far at that time, and they believed it was 5 or 6 minors at that time. What happened to those minors for this case? This is a good point. Like, this is the stuff that we're not saying, guys. What happened to the minors on these cases? And if the feds called and they interviewed, why didn't the feds bring in? I mean, that's a whole different charge, guys. The gun situation, that's a different charge. Now, some people have said, there's a new indictment coming. Listen, I'm not believing anything until I see something on paper. That's kind of where I'm at. People have said, oh, there's a new indictment coming. Guys, wait up. Hold your breath. I am not. I need to see something on paper at this point because I don't know what to believe. People can sue. I could sue Diddy. I can. I don't know for what, but anybody can sue. Anybody can sue me. I can sue them. This is why I'm mindful of the legal civil cases. And I believe that, there might be some validity to some of those cases, but why didn't they bring some of those cases into the federal case? Right? Especially if maybe some of them, especially the rugging part, they could have brought some witnesses over from those allegations. Hey, I was rugged. And this is the pattern of behavior. Don't forget the pictures that Busby put out there of the little rugging devices that they were using to rug people with GHB. Nothing came out of that. So even though, let me know what you guys think. Who won that little debate? I don't believe anything is coming through until I see something on paper. But you guys watched it with me. Let me know who. Let me see if I can take a poll. Who do you believe won that debate? Busby or Vlad? And some of y'all don't even like. I don't like any of them. I don't. So whichever one. Like, I'm sure some of you guys are like, I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy. But at least vote for one. Who do you think won that little back and forth debate? Let's see. Busby, 63%. Okay. Look at this. Busby's leading the polls. Busby's leading the polls. You said Busby, Linda? Okay. Yes, exactly. If there was minors on this case, that would have absolutely been. But okay. But don't forget what the prosecution said. And they threw that shit out there, and it really left me thinking a lot. They had this little argument before, what was it, the big hearing about whether he was going to be released on bail or not, right? There was this back and forth argument that they had. And they said that Comey said about minors. She dropped that in there. Comey said it. Why did she drop that in there? Like, are you intending to bring charges on this once this trial is over? Why didn't you bring them in there? You have your witnesses and your victims over here on Busby's Rolodex because he's the one that says that he has them. Why didn't you bring them there? Why didn't you go after him for that? So as far as a new indictment, I'm not believing it until I see it on paper. I need to see it on paper because listen, it could very well be that there's something new coming down and it's coming from out of California or wherever the hell it's coming. I just don't believe it until I see it on paper. I need to see it on paper before I say that's what it is. Don't worry. Don't worry. You said Vlad didn't win, Sonia? Said if there were minors or tapes, that would be considered CP and sharing that would be considered distribution. Those are some very serious allegations. Absolutely. Don't forget that Courtney Burgess, who is a known liar, also said that he had minors on tape. Nothing came out of that. Nothing. Exactly. Once that's attached to you, it doesn't come off. No. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it with this whole situation. But let me know what you guys think. Yeah, she mentioned minors at the very end. Shake my head. Mind you, she was involved in that Epstein case as well. And after yesterday, I don't trust anybody. You know, speaking of yes, you guys know that I've been like, I switched over there, and there's going to be another video on this because the shit is deep. Okay, with Epstein, they're lying. They're lying to us. I mean, hello, welcome. That's what they do as politicians. They lie to us. They never tell us the truth. They lie to us. They deceive us all the time. Don't watch my video from yesterday. The administration got confronted about the whole situation, and they weren't happy about the confrontation. So there's that. You said Vlad drove me nuts. He wouldn't shut up. Oh man, yeah. You said, I think that was part of the larger comment about her knowing only arguments for bail concerning cases concerning minors. Read what ICP report, then read that part on the transcripts. I have to go back, minds y'all, on this one because I might have missed that part, but I'm going to go back and see the part of the minors because that is kind of bothering me. And then kind of go back to here. What happened with this situation? Yep. And don't forget that. Yeah, the mayor with that whole indictment, nothing's going to happen there with Eric Adams. Did he run the city? Where's that picture? He gave him the key to the city. Nothing came out of that too. The guy got to walk free from charges. And all he had to do was switch political parties. That's the kind of like society that we're living in at this point. I mean, yeah, that's what it seems like. They can still bring more charges. It was actually smart to withhold some charges from this case so they can bring other charges. Now, here's the deal, Soul Power Tarot coaching and coaching. The only thing that I have to say about that is that I just don't, I need to see it on paper. You know what I mean? Like, we need to see it on paper at this point because I don't know what to believe. One person will say one thing, the other person will say the next. Until I see an actual document, Word document typed up, Roman times, font 12 at this point, with something or a press conference, then that's when I'm believing that we got something new. Other than that, I don't know what to say. You say, Rabbit, we are mushrooms to politicians. They keep us in the dark and feed us caca. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. You said Vlad gets on your nerves, Miss Toby? Pierce and Vlad, they both do. Let me see what you guys said. I just had to review that with you guys. Oh my God. You guys said that Busby one? Look at this. I don't like both of them. I don't like both of them. Busby gives me the impression that he wears really bad cologne. Don't he give you that impression? That guy wears like some really nasty cologne. It's giving I don't know, like nasty cologne. Let me stop. Exactly. Yeah, I just never, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I understand what you mean, Rabbit. Now Romans times from font 12, I'm dead. You know how they write that? You know, they write their little, because I mean, they're all Word docs, right? He gives me the impression that he wears really bad cologne, that Busby does. Not that you can discriminate. So I don't know. I'm just thinking. And Vlad gives me, like, what is that a Fendi shirt that he's wearing? Anyways, let me stop. I don't like both of them, but I like seeing people that I don't like fight. You know, you know that when you have two people that you don't like and they're fighting, you're here for it. You're like, oh, it's not me. Okay, I'm here for it. It's giving Old Spice. Oh, man. Oh my God. It kind of burns your nose, right? You're like, damn, what is this? Oh my God. Y'all are funny. All right, guys. Well, listen, I gotta go. This was a short. I thought we were gonna be here for 5 hours, and it turns out it was nothing. It was less than 7 minutes, but I wanted to show that clip. I don't know if I'll be live tonight. We'll see. I gotta put some stuff together, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. This was pretty Sweet little short, cute video for an hour. I will see you guys later. Hit the like button, share, do all those good things to help creators. Thank you. Teresa, thank you for being a member for 14 months. I almost missed your membership milestone. Rabbit, you're the best. Thank you. And Rosa, again, thank you for correcting me. Shout out to you guys. Yes, let me know what you guys think. Who do I think won out of both of them? The lady that was sitting there that was very quiet, I think she won. I forgot her name. The lady that was sitting, this lady right here won. She won. She won. This one. She won. She was like, whatever, let these men's argue. She won. All right. Bye, guys. Bye.